Good evening. I would like to welcome everyone to the Town of Lexington Special Call Council Work Session this evening, December the 15th, 2025. Work sessions are less formal business meetings that enable council to obtain information regarding town issues from staff members and/or consultants. Citizens are encouraged to observe work sessions. However, they do not include public hearings. Council does not take an action vote on items during a work session other than to place an item on the next council meeting. I am Hazel Livingston, the mayor of the town of Lexington. I'd like to introduce my fellow council members. Our mayor pro tem had to go home. He was not feeling well. Our next council member would be Todd Lyle.
Good evening.
And then council member Jenny Michaels.
Good evening.
To my right is council member Todd Carnes.
Good evening.
To his right is council member Gavin Smith.
Good evening.
And to his right is council member Will Allen.
Good evening.
Tonight I'd like to ask council member Allen to lead us in the invocation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Oh, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this beautiful day. As we come to the end of another year, getting ready for Christmas, Lord, we just want to pause and thank you for how much you've blessed our town. I think sometimes we take it for granted how much peace and prosperity you've gifted this town. And we are so thankful for it, Lord. So thank you so much for all that you've done for us. Please continue to guide this council in the decisions we make for our community. Keep us in the palm of your hand, the center of your will. And we pray all of this in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. Now I'd like to ask Councilmember Smith to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will now call the meeting to order. Council met in executive session prior to the meeting where we discussed the following matters. We interview of candidates for the assistant town administrator position, discussion of employment matters related to the backup judge position, and discussion regarding West Columbia water litigation. No vote was taken. Do I hear a motion to ratify this report?
So moved.
Councilman Carnes makes the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Councilman Lyle seconds it. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. And it is unanimous. Are there any deletions of items from tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we're going to move on into presentations. And before I have you come up, I am going to take this moment here and ask Matt Timmerman to walk in here, please, and bring his taser. I'm not very happy with you, but we've been together a long time around here.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, I think we've been together about the whole time, haven't we?
Yes, ma'am.
After 29 years in his law enforcement career, tonight will be Matt's last night with the town of Lexington. He is retiring. And that makes me sad. But thank you for your service, and we appreciate you so much. Appreciate what you did. Would y'all like to say anything, council?
I got a question. What's on the horizon?
I got a job with a company.
Okay.
So yeah, the opportunity came open. So,
All right. You staying local?
yeah, I'm remote from here.
Okay.
It
Perfect.
was my career here has helped me get a lot of contacts.
Yeah.
And that's been a very benefit. So I appreciate the opportunity to be with the town as long as I have been, and the opportunities I've been given here. So I look forward to still working with the town in the future.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your service to us.
Thank you.
I think I'm getting myself. The presentation tonight is from Administrator Rachel Gleaton.
Yes, Mayor. It's a very simple presentation. A couple months ago, we came and discussed with you a partnership with the Chamber to install our first mural in town. And so it's up on the screen, and we have a couple of the hard copies. We applied, and there were a number of things that we chose to have included within our mural: the palmetto tree, Boykin Spaniel, wood duck, striped bass, sweet tea, the Old Mill smokestack, Ice House Amphitheater, Lake Murray Dam Towers, and azaleas. So this is the sketch that we've got from the local artist. His first name is Michael, I think Michael Gettings is the artist. Bringing this for you all to see tonight, to see if there are any small changes, big changes you would like to see. Otherwise, this is what our mural will look like. Staff has given some feedback to include shrinking the size of the dog, to be a little bit smaller, to be to look visually better in line with the items next to it. We've also talked about sliding the greetings from portion to the left, as opposed to being a little bit more centered, just because it would look better on the wall that we're going to have it on. And I think that's about it. Just wanted to give you one final view before we move forward.
I'm very excited that we're finally getting a piece of art in downtown Lexington.
All right, that's all I have.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
was there anything that was brought up that didn't make it? Because I agree, if you make the Boykin Spaniel smaller, you now have like a skyline or something to add a second item in there. If there was,
No, they included everything. Yeah.
okay, but I agree that maybe making the, not that I have anything against Boykin Spaniels, but it does look proportionally a little too large.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
now, can you pull it back up on the screen for me? Yeah. Now, I am not a graphic designer, but looking at this, the E, I don't know what's happening in the middle of the E there.
Oh.
It seems like there should be, that black should continue too.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? So that it actually looks like Lexington.
We can make
It's kind of hard to read it as
defined.
Lexington. Mm-hmm. That was the only comment I had on it. It looks good.
Thank you.
It's like there's something behind it.
Yeah, it looks like there's something behind what the E is supposed to, I don't know.
I
what's
think
going
it's
on there.
the black behind the X that is a bit in conflict, but we will provide that feedback.
Okay.
So, Madam Mayor, I'm an engineer, so my opinion doesn't count very much. But I'm just curious, like who all looked at this? Like we say, I mean, this is my first look at it. So what kind of more trained eyes than mine look at something like this?
So we provided the input to the designer on the items that we wanted to see within Lexington. And initially, gray and white sketch was provided, and this was myself, Keep South Carolina Beautiful, Keep the Midlands Beautiful, the Chamber, who is a partner with us, Jack Stewart, who's been helping with us on this, and pretty much if you all are okay with it, they move forward. That's the extent of who's reviewed it. There's not any other review committee.
Okay. All right. So the chamber, we say the chamber, like, that's chamber leadership?
On gel, yes.
Okay.
They're the funder for the mural, if you recall.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
the only thing I would say is, I mean, I don't know that I would reduce the size of the dog too much. Otherwise, you would need to reduce the size of the duck and the size of the sweet tea, because visually they're zoomed in also. So you reduce the size of the dog, you're going to create a lot of skyline there. The skyline is relatively equal across the top throughout the letters.
Oh, I see.
So when you reduce that dog, it's going to create a natural, larger skyline there. It's going to, aesthetically, actually, I think it would look a little strange.
I would have to say I think I agree with you on that.
So I would,
A little bit, but not greatly.
I mean, you might could reduce it a little bit, but visually, I actually think it would be a little strange.
That's fine, maybe.
I'm not an artist.
Yeah.
I mean, I do graphic design, but I'm not an artist, so I would defer to the artist, but that would be my opinion.
Okay.
Okay, so you can move on with that, Rachel.
Thank Thank you.
Moving on to business items, we have our first business item from Building Director Jessica Lybrand, annexation of Royal Creek subdivision tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The town recently received an annexation petition signed by 83% of the property owners of the Royal Creek subdivision. Royal Creek is an 83-lot, single-family dwelling subdivision located in the 300 block of Hope Ferry Road. Properties in town near this one are zoned protected residential, and Hope Ferry Road is classified as an arterial road. The property is shown on the future land use map as suburban residential area. The comprehensive land use plan describes this area as low-density, single-family detached housing on large lots. At their November meeting, Planning Commission recommended annexing the properties with protected residential zoning and classifying Stately Way, Royal Creek Drive, and Majestic Court as residential Local 4 roads. So we have not had a subdivision submit for annexation in quite some time, so we thought it would be beneficial to bring it to you all in case you had some questions.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I received a question from a resident. I've asked you, but just for those watching, in accordance with state law, we require 75% of the lot owners or parcel owners, however you refer to that, to essentially agree to the annexation. We're not just taking this in because some of them want it. It surpasses the threshold required by state law, which is 75%, correct?
Correct, and that threshold is 75% of the freeholders owning at least 75% of the assessed value of the property in the area to be annexed. We've double-checked that, and we do exceed that threshold.
Okay, great, thank you.
So how many lots did not?
I don't have the exact number of lots.
Okay.
I believe whenever you look at the property value, we're right at 89% of property value. 83% of owners, 89% of the property value holders signed.
Okay. Okay. Do I hear a motion to put this on the agenda?
So moved.
Councilman Carnes makes the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Councilman Michaels seconds it. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. And it is unanimous.
Thank you.
Item number 2 is from Transportation Director Randy Edwards, our LTIP second edition.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to tonight to bring to you a presentation to walk you through the methodology we use to generate the LTIP 2.0. What's before you tonight is a review of the presentation, and then we just are recommending or asking for you to move this to council agenda just simply to adopt the methodology, which is in line with the original LTIP in 2018. Council adopted that methodology. This is modified. Our speaker, Tony Shepard, which is our engineer of record for the LTIP, we contracted with them last January after the request in December, and we've actually met our deadline, and it's here before you tonight. And if you have any questions, we'll answer them when we're finished. Thank you. Tony?
Thank you, Randy. Excuse me. Mayor, Council, pleased to be here in front of you tonight to give you an introduction to the LTIP 2.0. I do want to introduce one other individual that helped me through this process. Rob Dudnicka with Mead and Hunt served as kind of a technical expert behind the scenes on this project as well. So I do not want to remiss and leave him out. So I want to get that up front. So with that, basically, what I'm going to walk you through is how we took an area and reduced it down to specific recommendations at intersections. As you'll see on the screen, the study area that we used was generally bound by Old Cherokee Pilgrim Church to the north, Corley Mill Road to the east, I-20 to the south, and then Pisgah Church, Charter Oak to the west. And you'll see the town limits imposed within that study area boundary that we had. As with any transportation plan, the first thing you're looking at is you're trying to get that traffic data pulled in. We utilize the SEDOT annual traffic counts that they perform and generated this graphic before you to display the traffic volume using the major roadways throughout this corridor that we were studying. Just a couple points of interest that I'd like to point out to you. There are actually 2 segments of roadway within the study area, both being within the town limits, that are approaching 50,000 vehicles a day. Oh. And that would be North Lake from Columbia Avenue to Sunset, and West Main from Columbia Avenue to US 378. Taking that traffic data, we took it and actually went in and went through a process of going through and determining the level of service on those segments of roads that we were analyzing. And the reason we did this kind of gives you a true measure of, you've got the volume on the road, but it's also what is the capacity that road can carry. So it is taking that into account into this level of service. I know y'all have seen traffic studies before, and it talks about level of service. It's graded from A to F, kind of like everybody was in school. And this is done the same way. This is just on the segments of road we're looking at. One thing I would like to kind of point out to you is there is a specific value for every one of these segments, but it's categorized into those grading criteria. And of that, F kind of being the largest area, and there is different levels of F. It's just like in school, someone making a 50 on a test knew the material twice as good as the person that made 25 on the test. So there is levels even within that F. The second thing we did with that traffic data is we actually looked at a 10-year horizon of that data going back. And what we were capturing here was analyzing what growth has taken place on these roads within that study area. Excuse me. This is one way for us. There's kind of 2 ways we look at it when we're trying to project traffic forward and traffic growth. One is we look back at the historical data, which gives you pretty good trends. And then also we use the coach travel demand model, looking at it and what it is kind of projecting forward based on the inputs that it receives. The kind of last set of data that we pull forward, I see some eyebrows raising on this one. This is crash data. This comes from the Department of Public Safety. We took that crash data and we basically clipped out the area of our study area. Excuse me. We pulled 5.5 years worth of data. What we were doing is we wanted a lot of data to help us pinpoint down to intersection levels. The graphic in front of you displays in that 5.5 year period, there was over 6,500 crashes within that study area. And it almost defines your roadway network as well. Okay. Taking that data, using all this data, we had a number of intersections. There's greater than 100 intersections within the study area. So we have to get that data and get those intersections organized, prioritized for us to have a organized way to work through this listing. The pie chart in front of you kind of gives you the example of how we broke this out. As I mentioned, we had the 2023 traffic data from DOT. That was the most current at the time when we started the study. We weighted it at 5% for these intersections. The intersection crash rate, which is, we used the federal formula for determining that based off that crash data that we had pulled, we gave it a weighting of 15%. And then the level of service that we calculated for those routes, we gave it a 50%. That's the way people feel driving those roads today. That's what they're feeling today. Those three combined elements kind of match and mirror what was done in 2018 LTIP. The new component, which is that 30% that slid off to the side here, this is where we took and looked and said, with 10 years of annualized growth applied to that 2013 value, ADT value, how much does that level of service degrade? So we're trying to capture the impacts of that growth on what it's going to do on the operation of those roads. Well, that gave us a prioritized list. So we've got this substantial list of intersections from one to the end. So we have to work through that list to determine which ones we're going to actually get in and dig into deeper. So in that, we had some, as we worked through that list, we started finding some things of intersections we needed to pull out. We pulled out intersections which were currently under study, currently under construction, just recently completed studies or construction on those, and we pulled those intersections out. There were 19 of those that we pulled out simply because of that. What that indicates is the volume of work that's being done within this area to address transportation needs. We also had some data anomalies. And I kind of went over it a little fast, but kind of one of the big ones that jumped out to us is it showed a tremendous amount of growth that took place on North Church Street. Well, that just didn't make sense to us until we started examining over this 10 years what happened to North Church Street. It became part of the one-way pair project. It's now carrying half the traffic that was on North Lake. So that kind of skews the data sets for everything within that one-way pair. So we kind of pull those intersections out. Then we also looked at, there's some intersections we were looking at and said, well, yeah, we know this intersection, but we know this adjacent intersection is also contributing to the issue. So we may have pulled another intersection into it simply because it was needed. With that, we call this down to 30 intersections to be counted and further evaluated. As you can see on the graphic here, the red dots are the ones in town, the blue squares are the ones that are actually within the county. And I believe Randy brought this listing of intersections to the council back in April, prior to us actually going out and collecting count data. We collected count data April 24th, 2025, specific to those intersections. The good thing was all schools were in session. There was no severe, there was rain that day, but there was no severe weather to really impact traffic. Using that data, we went in and performed an analysis where we looked at the existing operation conditions of that intersection, then the future operations when that growth was added. Then went through kind of a trial and error of looking at modeling different improvements to see what performed the best in mitigating that growth and mitigating the problems and issues that we were seeing. And even in some cases, we started noticing some, let's say, emerging trends within some of the intersections that kind of led us to some additional findings or information to provide forward. Out of that study, for every one of those intersections studied, there is a conceptual sketch that's been drawn up showing what those the best performing improvements look like. Now, this was done on top of aerial with GIS information, so there's some known error in what we're doing, but it gives you a good graphical illustration that's easy to convey to people kind of what we're looking at to perform at these intersections. Those improvement types are kind of listed right there. One of the things we brought in, we did find some locations where we had some interim low cost improvements that could be made to make some immediate impacts. Probably the biggest thing coming out of this as recommendations is turn lane extensions and some traffic signal modification, operational modifications. And pretty much every intersection had some form of access management component to it. The town's done a very good job with parcel interconnectivity on these developments. So we need to try to protect some of these turn lanes to help this traffic operate better. So then we moved forward and actually produced an opinion of probable cost. This varies differently from what was done in the 2018 LTIP. 2018 LTIP provided this cost, but it was construction cost. The approach we took was more of a budgetary cost. We're looking at the design, the construction, the right-of-way, the utilities, as well as the construction inspection. So that's a little more holistic. So when you look at this, there's going to be some sticker shock to those numbers. Number one, just simply because of the escalation in cost over that time. But this cost encompasses more than what was done in the 2018 LTIP. Okay. Kind of in wrapping up, we produced the LTIP to be more of a reference document, help for the town to support their decisions and transportation decisions and decision-making. It's not an all-inclusive document. There's intersections within that study area that are not in this document. So, not everything's in there, but it talks about remaining intersections that's not there. It gives guidance on how those should be approached. And then, are we done? Now that we've studied this, is this everything? This is all we need to do? No. As you know, the growth that's occurring in this area is moving very rapidly. We see this kind of as a 5-year horizon that you need to come back and look at this again, just simply because when you're trying to project forward, it's a little bit of a crystal ball. So you need to keep updating that as you move forward in time. And in the end, what was our goal? The goal was to give guidance to the town on how to best preserve the transportation investment that you're making. And we actually included 3 little almost case studies of some other municipalities within the state that have dealt with this large growth component and some measures they took to kind of address that and give them more leverage in making those decisions. With that, that's all I have for you.
So just,
Randy, before
Yes,
you start, can I see if anybody has any questions for him? Or do you want to go
I
ahead?
just wanted to make a clarifying statement that
Okay.
then hopefully we'll just put some, a belt and suspender on it. So when we came back to y'all in '24, the request was, hey, there's so much going on outside that's impacting the inside. Let's take a look at that. And so with that, the proposal includes developing a local travel demand model that considers those traffic impacts. Okay, so that's why we looked at that, and that's why we've got the growth component is now in the LTIP, which was not in the original one. And so this will help us then prioritize that master list, the 30 that we went over, all right, using this methodology, and then allow us to serve as a tool for any of those intersections that may have not been studied when there's, for example, a commercial development someplace where we didn't expect that, will allow us to be able to go back and work it through this process and actually use that to then guide our improvements. Just exactly like we've used with the LTIP. This is a little more all-encompassing, a little more inclusive, and then includes the growth component and looks outside the town limits. So with that, and then one final thing is we did present this to the traffic committee, and they made their recommendation for you, recommended that you adopt this methodology for the LTIP 2.0. And with that, any questions?
You're asking us to put this on an agenda to adopt the methodology?
The methodology for
I'm going to ask for a
prioritization.
motion and a second and then discussion. Is that
So
okay?
moved.
Councilman Smith makes the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Councilman Carnes seconds it. Now, the floor is open for discussion.
Yeah, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Just a few quick questions. Can we pull back up the slide where it showed the traffic percentage increases? It was right after the level of service, I think. That one was, it was towards the front. Or,
One more.
make sure I was looking at that right. So I see all that. I see a lot of white in there, which shows less than a 2% growth rate over 10 years, and that's from 13 to 23. So
That's an annualized number.
okay, all right, that makes sense. That answers that question. And so, Randy, the intersections that are not addressed, I assume that all this is kind of built on some kind of master model that you guys modeled in a software that's there forever.
Yes.
So when we do have development around an intersection that we didn't anticipate, we can plug that into this existing software model and figure out the best modifications for efficiency at that intersection. Is it that simple to plug and play now that we have the model, or is it more complex than that? And who's responsible for that when that happens?
For Rob's benefit, it's certainly more complicated than just plugging it in. And I mean, he certainly is, has that ability. I think it would, like, we would not have that ability on a regular basis the way we inherit traffic, from new development. If there is something, significant, for example, a school at a new location, we would certainly request that get modeled and see how it affects the plan.
Because the normal mode of operation is developer goes to whatever engineering company they're comfortable with, and they get their own traffic study. So when they going to bring their own traffic study, how do we integrate that into what looks like a pretty significant model that we have built?
So do you want to go ahead?
One of the components I talked about at the end, and I didn't get specific, was some of those case studies. There is one example that I talked to Randy about of a low country, and it's actually in several low country municipalities and counties, of how they're controlling that impact analysis being done. And it will give you more opportunity to have a little more control in that than what you're talking about that's currently happening. But a lot of those engineering firms should be utilizing basically the same modeling software that we utilize for this. So you should basically go through the same process regardless of who is doing it. But there is some examples out there that you may want to consider to have a little more control in how that's done.
Yeah, there should be some way to synergize. I mean, this is quite a significant project and quite a significant expenditure for us. So we don't have to get into the granular details, but there should be some way to synergize this with new development and, kind of pushing people through the system.
Correct. So there's now that we're complete, we will be able to model that and compare it with what we've projected, as far as whether it's a independent third-party firm or the firm that the developer brought to the table. And that's our current practice.
And Randy, one of the things that we can do, we'll provide synchro files.
Correct.
So those files could be handed to that, whoever's doing that other study, and they could take those files and build upon those.
Okay.
And so then, once the LTIP is, finalized, once this adoption is complete, we'll actually get a document that then will have additional recommendations. One of the points that Tony it's not really the meat of this presentation, but one of the points is that there are ways to help us at staff level to manage growth, and one of those would be, to look at how we govern. Like if a developer walks in and says, hey, I want to do just last week's, if we want to go out to, Bar Road, the Satcher development, where we actually hired CHA to do that analysis, we would hire them and the developer would pay for it. It would require a ordinance that y'all adopt and pass, but that's one of the mechanisms to where you can move forward, and then it gives you all a little bit better level of confidence that, hey, what's coming to us, and then we would hire 2-3 firms to be on call, for that type of thing and just distribute it, and it would give you all that vote of confidence that, hey, we're using our firm. It's not costing the town any money, but we definitely know that they're working for us and for the town. And then they would have that model to vet everything through, and we'd have more confidence in, what we're presenting.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Anyone else?
Briefly, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Randy, do we have a mechanism for the cost that is in this presentation to be adjusted for updates or inflationary items? I know that a lot of the frustration that we've seen is something's bid and then 4 years later something's estimated and then 4 years later we bid it and it's not even close. So I caution, it sounds like this report, I think, Tony, you mentioned at one point that the cost wasn't just the construction, but you took into account right away and all those other sundry items. So is it fair to say that this number has a living aspect to it for costs associated with inflation or updating the construction costs or anything of that nature?
It doesn't have a built-in inflationary cost in it. It is 2025 numbers as the basis. There is comment in the report where this cost is generated. It talks about, we actually did an analysis from 2023 to 25, looking at construction cost, and we took the major bid items, and we were seeing a 25% escalation just in those 2 years. So we've got it noted in there that, that's something that's going to have to be considered once you start getting, 1, 2 years, 3 years out, looking at these costs.
2-3 months out, almost.
Well, yeah.
Is there big asterisks or something? Because what I don't want is we're thinking about it right now, but say 2 years from now we're looking at it, 5 years from now we're looking at it, before it gets updated again and somebody looks at that number. Is there some big honking disclaimer asterisk on the cost page that says this is static for 2025? And if not, can we have it just obnoxiously on there?
We can make that change, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think for clarification, we'll make sure that it's clearly defined that these are 2025 values. And I think the upside to this one is that we've incorporated the prospective utility impacts. We've looked at those so that the projects actually have a scale relative one to the other. And then one final note, make sure that you all understand that when we excluded areas, for example, Corley Mill Road was excluded, you'll see that there's no evaluations there on those intersections, specifically because the COG had done their study and has looked at all of those. So it allowed us to take those funds and push them to other intersections throughout town. And the same goes for the projects we've got on the books, Corley Mill Gateway and then North Lake Corridor. You know what I mean? So they're not, when you drill down and get an opportunity to look at those, you'll see like there's sections missing. It's like, well, because we've already active projects there. So, and with that, we'll take those couple comments and wrap up that document. And that should then become, and the good news about the document is that will be, unlike the last one where we printed it, this is massive. You'll be able to, like through a PDF, click on a link. It'll take you to that specific schematic, that information, that traffic data. And then the same goes for, you'll be able to link over to those other studies or at least point to say, hey, that study exists. So should be a good living document as we move forward.
Madam Mayor, real quick. So the COGS work, if it's done in the same software set, I mean, does it easily integrate into what we've done, like on Corley Mill? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So will it be compiled as a part of whatever we publish, or will they be, you have to go find them in different places?
Our plan was to point to it, that,
Okay.
hey, there's this other study, you know what I mean, that you can go gain that. So if, for example, if a development came out there, we would say, well, our LTIP doesn't address those intersections. You will go get this COG study and look at that and see what the impacts are.
Is the COG study completed?
That was a Mead and Hunt driven.
Yeah, I think it is. If it's not, it's supposed to be.
Yeah. It's going through a big public review and that type of thing. I just don't know if they've fully finalized it.
Okay.
And part of the reason we didn't just include it in is if there's any edits, updates to those, trying to make certain that we're with the current. It was much easier and would be better long-term if we just pointed to it. That way all edits are taken care of and we don't miss anything.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. And it is unanimous. Our last item tonight is also from Director Randy Edwards, discussion of Portia Drive.
Good evening. So before you tonight is thank you, Michael. Scepter Enterprises is the owner of this parcel of land, and they has about a 1,000-foot roadway on it, already constructed to county standard. The property has come in through Jessica's department and has asked for subdivision into about 5 lots. The town, we currently own a lot in that subdivision. And so the question before you for discussion purposes is our level of interest ultimately in simply taking that into our public maintenance. And the reasons for just why we've come up against what are we going to do is the county no longer, their land development manual now states they will not take any, quote, commercial roadways. When it was originally written, that was intended to avoid there being a commercial driveway that the town was taking care of. They're serving 2 lots. They have now expanded that to any and all lots. And so being a part owner of that future maintenance, we just wanted to bring that to y'all for discussion, because if we're part owner, we're going to be part of the future maintenance. We would be required to, do our 1/5 or whatever the value is, however that all gets worked out. Currently, the property owner is fine with it being private, okay? The question is, should this be public, because it's going to serve multiple lots and include us? So ultimately, it could very well come back to us as being, having a large share of the maintenance responsibilities. If it's private, we don't have the opportunity to prevent dumpsters from being parked out there, from damage, from various developers, not developers, but operations, storing, 18-wheelers, parked on the road, those types of things. So that's why we just wanted to bring this to y'all and say, hey, this is a little bit different than serving a 2-lot. The original was just 1 lot, and that's why it was built. No, exactly. I think 22 is about when it came finished construction or somewhere in that ballpark. And the county initially said, hey, we'll take it in, but their land development manual prevents that. So that's the reason why we wanted to just bring it to y'all and get your thoughts on how we should move forward with either taking this into the system. We're confident in its inspection. It was built per county standard. It was fully inspected. No real issues there structurally. Or, allow it to go private, but understand that we are a party as shown that's our track on the yellow, which we have access to.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
what is your recommendation?
I can understand why private feels better, but knowing that we outlast everyone as the public entity, ultimately we're going to be with these folks in the future dealing with whatever maintenance is necessary. The other upside to if it is public is we can enforce it as public. So we don't allow, dropping dumpsters, parking 18-wheeler trailers, those types of things on public roads. So that would be the upside and the direction I would lean for 1,000-foot of road. Maintenance is not super high. It's, resurfacing like we're doing on a lot of these other roads in the future. So
So to be clear, your recommendation is take it in as a public road.
my recommendation would be to take it in.
Thank you.
Randy, I'm pulling it up now, and like can you explain what's on that site? We got a tower on that
We have
site.
a water tower on that site that
Looks, I mean, like we could probably access our tower from Portia Drive.
you can.
Right.
We have a driveway on Portia Drive. I
Right.
think it's when we build the new tower, we will need to access from the other side.
So our new tower is just going to go kind of behind this, but
Correct.
on
in
our
that
same
more
parcel.
open area, and therefore potentially blocking off how we could actually get in there to it.
yeah, so like what, there's a concrete company there?
Yes, on the first track on the left, if you're looking, well,
Yeah.
which way you're,
And, all
Michael,
right,
can you-
yeah, I'm looking at it, and we got there's multiple commercial tracks coming in.
correct.
I mean, right,
That is
I don't know, I
correct.
mean,
You have
right
four
now,
potential-
we got long-term liability for 20% of that thing. I mean, if we take long-term liability for 100% instead of 20%, like, we should be compensated for that. Like, just to say, well, we'll just take the other 80% so nobody drop a dumpster there, like, it just doesn't, I don't know, I mean, I think, I don't know who owns the rest of the land, I don't know anything about it, but it just, we've got more roads than we can fund the maintenance of now. I don't think anybody would argue that. So I know it's 1,000 feet, so that's a quarter mile or less.
Right.
So that's my initial gut. I'd be interested to hear the other side of the story, but I'm just not interested in taking over 800 feet of road that I don't have to. And I don't see the liability. I don't see the liability on our side. We're always going to have access to our stuff. Other than you say, I mean, yeah, it's a private drive, but presumably they're going to have some kind of covenant, community association docs that govern that whole deal. I just was involved in one of these. I mean, is there a counterpoint to that?
No,
It just feels like all liability to me, but there may be a counterpoint I can't see.
I was just going to say, for historical reasons, this began as an industrial park in 2016. There were a lot of delays. They made a resubmittal around 2018, 2020-ish for land disturbance reasons, which then made them do a new major update. So that delayed the process of getting the road finalized, and by the time it was ready to be finalized, this ordinance change with Lexington County's land development manual had already taken place. So that is why they are no longer, it was always intended to be a public road, because it always intended to be an industrial park back there.
Councilmember Lyle
Yeah,
has a question.
have they petitioned for any kind of a variance from the county based on all those reasons you just laid out? Because, help me out understand this, but if they were going for the county, they got delayed and missed this deadline, I'd love to hear that they made every effort to go get the county to hear all that sad story and not just say, well, we'll just punt it on the town. Because I fully share Councilman Carnes' analysis. I'm looking at this going, we have, I don't know, 100 feet of frontage on Portia at least. I'm looking at GIS now. I probably should look at the plat again. But, like, I don't see the upside to being responsible for that entire road when we're right at the very beginning of it. At a minimum, it would be a pro rata thing where we're doing a whole bunch of work for the guy, or not work, but a whole bunch of obligation for the guys 80% beyond us. So I don't know if I see the upside. I also see that this landowner has an access point up on industrial. It may not be improved yet, but yeah, has this property owner made an exhaustive effort to try and get the county to go back and look at its position based on the variance?
I believe so. From the notes that I have, some of this discussion happened prior to me, but some of the delays were on Scepter's part, the property owner's part, and they made some major changes, which then resulted in that being treated as a new submittal.
Still, though, they had the right to say, we tried to
They
do this
tried.
under the county. They tried. The county turned them down.
Yes. We've,
All right, well, I don't know why we should pick up the slack then.
So, and I'm not saying that that's necessarily what I would want to have happen. I think I want us to make sure that we're aware that depending upon how this fleshes out, as the longstanding property owner, we're partnered with the rest of this group, and we don't know what that's going to look like. I would be interested in, do we, as these develop, end up with a cost share where it's like, hey, there is a fund, where it's like, hey, this is actually being set aside for road maintenance because it is, a public but yet industrial access road. I think the one upside to it, I certainly have experienced the damage that businesses that use the road near their business as laydown yards, as, that maintenance goes extremely high, and to advise, say, hey, we want to just partner where if we just, in other words, if we just own the road, we can control all of that none of that happens. So those are the two pieces. And
Right, but just to be clear, it's a private parcel that right now is responsible for all its own maintenance of its road, correct?
that is correct.
All right. So if we obligated ourselves to maintain the entire thing, the upside would be to be able to police it.
Yes, and to control the maintenance that does occur on it, so it's timely.
But the corollary to that, or the counterpoint, is that we have access on Porsche, correct?
The concern I have, and David's not here necessarily to speak, is that the site doesn't lay out to where once we build the new tower, how do you keep the old tower up, build a new tower, and retain that access? I'm not into the weeds that far, but it definitely came up that we retained access point to that road when this land transaction occurred for access to the tower.
I mean, at a bare minimum, I see no upside in agreeing to the entire road. At a minimum, or at a maximum, I would see make the first 120 feet of it our responsibility, which gets us to our point. And we don't care about what's after us. Why do we care what's after us?
Fair.
If they want to drop dumpsters, tear it up, and the whole 9 yards, why do we want
Right.
to go fix the 800
No.
feet past it?
Agreed.
So I'm not inclined to want to obligate. I mean, I think what Councilman McCarthy said first, we was pulling tooth and nails to resurface the 8 miles or whatever we're doing now, and then it was moving heaven and earth with the county to try to pave those 3 and
Correct.
4 dirt
That are
roads.
still not paved.
They're still not paved. So I'm not in favor of obligating us any further unless
Okay.
there's some other point that we're missing.
So let me ask you this. You had some questions for David for clarification, and obviously you've heard some different comments up here from just doing that percentage, to get us to our land and stuff. Why don't you bring us back to the next work session, some different options, and if they have more questions, they can send them to you.
Okay.
Instead of us putting it on the agenda this time. That work?
Yeah, can I ask one more?
Sure.
Yes.
It's 220 feet from the road to the end of ours. I mean, that might be a suitable conclusion. I think what I would, and I've only had 2 minutes to think about it, so I could be totally wrong, all right? So don't. But I think maybe this is a deal where we just see how this thing plays out right now. We got 20% liability, and let's just roll it, because we don't know what's coming behind us. I would say taking the first 200 feet, which goes to our far property line, that might not be a bad play, but I would kind of want to know what's going to go in the rest of all that before I even took that, because they put another cement plant back there, something that's going to tear the heck out of that road, then I want everybody else to pay 80% of that. So maybe we could just push it if it's not urgent, because I don't worry about, I've seen these and I've helped develop these, I'm not really worried about our access. Whoever's developing that property, they should be providing us some covenants and some kind of maintenance agreement. That's probably all 20 years down the road anyway.
We would require that as part of the subdivision.
Yeah, so I think
So is
we
it-
just push it, Randy.
Randy, is it an urgency? Or can we kind of watch it and see what happens?
This all came up September, October of this year, and obviously timing, getting it to y'all, and the developer wants to make a decision, but obviously we want to make a sound decision. They, like I said, they're fine with it being private. I wanted us to be aware that we may, in the future, again, these are mays, right, that be on the hook for a significant maintenance, because we lose that control. It could be possible, too, as the development occurs, that we get with David Epperson and look at some language as to how can we put some stuff in there that protects us as these tracks get developed. And, because you're right, there could be a brickyard back there could be any number of cool things that, come into town, but.
So why don't you let it play out and let's see what you need to do and work with David on it too.
So we'll work with David Wyman on access, what that looks like. We'll work with David Epperson on potential language, and then
One final thing.
some of those choices back to you.
Todd's got one final thing, and then
Maybe
I'm
this
shutting
didn't
down.
click. I'm not the sharpest knife up here. But they have to go through, this is already in the town.
Correct.
So in order to be approved for any subdivision, they would have to submit to us an agreement in place that we amen.
Before any plat is
Okay,
recorded and approved and
So,
permits.
so any kind of road maintenance agreement, we would have the opportunity to veto or approve as part of the package to, okay, well, I think that makes this a lot simpler for me. I think we get with David Epperson to come up with whatever language that protects the taxpayers as much as possible. And then we have, in a very nice and polite and fair way, the opportunity to help meter the plan to subdivide that parcel. I think that's probably the most conservative and responsible way to go about this.
Okay, so y'all have understanding of what we're doing, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the business items, and we have one piece of council information from Town Administrator Rachel Gleaton.
Yes, Mayor, this is for information purposes. In November, we posted an RFP for audit services. We received 3 responses. 2 were responsive and 1 was not responsive. So we only reviewed and scored 2. The 1 non-responsive was late. Of the 2 that we reviewed, Brittingham Group was the winner for the next contract for audit services. Brittingham Group is who we currently use, so they re-won the contract. They were by far the best value for the service. In the year, they were $11,000 less than the other proposal, and over a 5-year period was $100,000 less than the other proposal. They also have a higher score for local vendor preference versus the other proposal. So we will be entering into a 3-year agreement with Brittingham Group with 2 1-year extension options as well.
Thank you for your update. Any questions from the public? I don't see any public. Any questions from the news media? I don't see those either. So any questions from staff? From council, anything? As this is our final meeting of 2025, we want to wish everyone a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year as we welcome 2026. Thank you to our community, town staff, and fellow council members for your dedication and hard work throughout the year. We truly appreciate all that you do and look forward to the year ahead. Happy holidays to all. That concludes our business for tonight. Without objection, we are adjourned.